So, what really makes a volleyball champion? I mean, what's the secret sauce? It's a journey that starts with that very first time you touch a ball and ends with a mindset that is just unbreakable. Today, we're going to break down that entire process piece by piece. Before we even get into the skills and the drills, you've got to start right here with this core idea from the legendary coach Marv Dunphy. See, volleyball isn't a solo act. You can't just be a freelancer out there. It is fundamentally about connection. It's about a whole group of people moving and thinking as one. And honestly, that philosophy, it's the bedrock for everything else we're about to talk about. So, where does this whole journey kick off? Well, it's not in some high-stakes championship match. Nope, it starts in a place of pure enjoyment. This is the first, and you could argue, the most important stage in building a champion. That's it. That's the secret ingredient right there. Before you can ever have the will to win, you have to have a deep love for the game. And that passion, it's built on a foundation of positive, really enjoyable first experiences. I mean, think about it. If it's not fun, why would anyone stick around long enough to get good? And that's where a concept like mini volley is just brilliant. It's designed specifically to create that fun. Instead of just throwing kids into the deep end on a massive court and bogging them down with a million rules, mini volley breaks it all down. It makes the game totally accessible, which means more touches, more action, and way more success right from the get-go. What's so cool here is how this philosophy just flips the whole idea of coaching for young players on its head. It's not about the scoreboard at all. It's about getting everyone involved, building leaders by having older kids help the younger ones. And here's the key part. Drills are treated as games. You keep the intros super short, 30 seconds or less, because kids learn by doing, not by listening to a lecture. It's all about praising the effort, not just the perfect spike. Okay, so as a player's love for the game really starts to grow, the coach's role becomes even more critical. They're the architects of skill, yeah, but just as importantly, they're the shapers of attitude. So let's take a look at the tools they've got in their playbook. Oh, this is such a powerful distinction. Traditional feedback, right? It focuses on what you just did wrong. But this technique called feed forward, it completely changes the conversation. So instead of a coach saying, you dropped your elbow, which can feel a little critical, they might say, okay, on this next one, let's really focus on keeping that elbow high. See the difference? It's collaborative, it's inspiring, and it gets the player thinking about future success, not dwelling on past failure. And there's Marv Dunphy again, with a quote that just cuts through so much of the noise in coaching. Why is this so profound? Because it basically argues that the absolute best way to train is to make practice look and feel like a real game. Isolated drills are fine, but they don't always translate to the chaos of a real match. The pass-set-hit sequence, that's the fundamental language of volleyball. And this shows the concept perfectly. You can just see the flow. The pass from player P goes right to the setter S, who then puts it up for the attacker A. Every single player is learning to read the situation and use their skill in the context of an actual rally. This is exactly how you build that game intuition we were talking about earlier. Now, let's get really specific with a skill like blocking. Before a coach can even start correcting mistakes, they have to show what the ideal form looks like. And here it is, broken down. First, that balanced ready position. Then, the powerful extension up and over the net. And finally, the controlled landing, ready for whatever happens next. And here's where that feed-forward idea we talked about really comes into play. These aren't just corrections, they're actionable cues for the very next attempt. And notice how specific they are. Jump after the attacker. Well, why? Because it's all about timing. Turn the outside hand in. Again, why? So the ball deflects back into their court, not out of bounds. Every single point here is a building block for a much better block. At the end of the day, all of this fantastic coaching philosophy has to be grounded in one thing: creating a positive and safe environment. Organizations like the Positive Coaching Alliance really emphasize that a coach's job isn't just to teach serves and spikes, but to develop character and make sure these athletes can thrive, both on and off the court. All right, so we've got the fun, we've got the coach's playbook. Now let's kind of zoom out and look at how all these pieces fit into a long-term plan for developing a complete athlete. This long-term athlete development model, think of it like a roadmap for an athlete's career. It shows that you can't just skip steps and jump straight to elite competition. Each stage has a very specific purpose, starting with fundamentals, and yes, that's fun with fun in it, and building a really broad base of skills before you even think about specializing. And why is this so important? Well, because rushing this process is a one-way ticket to burnout and injury. Let's just zoom in on that learn to train stage for a second. Look at this ratio, 70% training, 30% competition. So for every one game they play, there should be at least 2 practices. The emphasis is squarely on developing skills, not on what the scoreboard says over the weekend. But now, watch what happens as athletes get older and move into the train to compete stage. The whole ratio flips. Now, 60% of their time is dedicated to competition. So what's with the change? Well, because at this point, they're moving from just building the tools to learning how to use them under intense pressure. This is the psychological training ground for handling those high-stakes moments and performing when it really, truly counts. All right, so we've built the foundation. We've honed the physical skills. But what is it that separates the really great players from the truly elite ones? A lot of times it has nothing to do with how high they jump or how hard they hit. It's all about what's going on between the ears. You can't talk about legends without mentioning Karch Kiraly. He says the champion's mindset begins long before you even step on the court. It's about knowing, deep down, that you've put in the work. That kind of meticulous preparation doesn't just build your skills. It builds this quiet confidence that lets you go out there and play without fear. And then you have another icon, Kerry Walsh Jennings, talking about resilience. Every single player is going to face adversity. A bad call, a tough loss, an injury, you name it. A true champion sees those moments not as failures, but as opportunities. They actually allow those challenges to forge them into someone even stronger. And finally, Lloyd Ball reminds us about that fire inside. Skill can take you really far, for sure, but it's that relentless internal drive, that will to win, that carries you all the way to the top. It's about that daily commitment, that understanding that every single day is an opportunity to get better, that you are never, ever going to get back. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that this whole thing is a holistic process. You can't just train the player who knows how to pass and hit. You also have to develop the athlete who has the strength and speed. And maybe most importantly, you have to nurture the person by building their confidence, their courage, and their character. A true champion is the sum of all 3 of those parts. So we've laid out the entire DNA of a champion, all the way from the simple joy of mini volley to the absolute grit of an Olympian. It's a path of dedication, smart coaching, and incredible mental fortitude. So now the question isn't just for them, it's for you. How will you apply these lessons, whether it's on a court or off? How will you play the game?